Okay, my name is Dr. Njenga. I'm excited to be with you today. So, before I go to the panel, I would like us to ask ourselves, do we know what is universal health coverage? Because the summit today, in as much as it's focusing on the youth, our main agenda is achieving universal health coverage. We know the 3 pillars of universal health coverage. You can write that down, because that is what will form the basis of our discussion today. If we really know what is universal health coverage, and then we need to understand what is the place of the youth when it comes to the realization of universal health coverage. So I want to welcome the panel. Start with Prof. Miss Laurene Amoit. She is the health program lead at African Leadership Academy. Welcome her. Then I have Dr. Shadrack Opon. He is the HOD, Health Systems at the Department of Amref. And then we have Professor Tammary Esho, the DBC Academic Affairs at Amref International University, the legal representative. Okay. So I think we have the panelists too. So before we go on, is the new represents Professor Tammary. You can welcome him. We are going to start our discussion today, and we are focusing on leadership and governance in an aim to achieve universal health. So, from what Professor Laurene has discussed, is something he has said about inspiring and nurturing of the youth. So, to start with, does Kenya really have nurturable youth? Start with. Because we need to start from somewhere, because we are in this place, because we really need to know, does Kenya have nurturable youth?
I hope that's okay. It's fine. That's an interesting question. I'll speak. I think Kenya does have nurturable youth. I work for the African Leadership Academy, and our core mission is to develop the next generation of African leaders. So, by virtue of us having an institution which does that, I think it just goes to show that we believe Africa, and if I can go down to Kenya, because we have Kenyan students, are capable of stepping out to leadership when the time. Now, actually, even because I think we're always told that they're the leaders of tomorrow, but no, they're the leaders of today, because they demonstrate day by day that they can step out to leadership. So we do have a trouble youth.
Thank you very much. I do not only think that we have abundant natural youth, but we do not have a deficiency of intellect among the youth. I think Kenyans youth are energetic, they are driven, and have a conviction to contribute. So what the youth need is to be mentored into leadership. That would be my position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we do. As a country, there are a lot of things a lot of amazing things that the youth are doing. So yes, our youth are quite active and naturally good.
Thank you very much. Now, because we say that truly we have natural youth who can participate, in achieving who can participate in leadership and governance so that we can have the success of universal health coverage. Now, in your own professional experiences, which place do you see leadership and governance being placed in so that we can realize universal health coverage? What is the place of leadership and governance, especially for the realization of universal health coverage?
So, I think that it has to start with, because by definition, universal health coverage is really ensuring that all members of the community have access to quality care without undergoing financial hardship, right? And it starts with governance. Unless our government step up, and I remember the Lord speaker who said one of the biggest. If Kenyatta wanted to do his page of what the issues facing Kenya are, corruption would be at the top. And it's no doubt, everybody does know that Kenya, we have a big corruption issue that's really hindering access to good quality healthcare in the country. So the youth can step up to leadership. And I'll just do a humble brag here, because we do have an endowment from our institution, actually. Senator Eddie was elected this year to be a representative of Migori. And that is one which we believe of what you're plotting, that he will eventually end up to be a catalyst of change, at least in his region. So that's, and he's really young. And there are many more senators or pages upcoming that the youth, who are youth, can actually take up such leadership. So that is one of the roles. Secondly, I love that one of the other things that is the focus of this conference is innovation. I think it's highly underestimated that's the amount of how smart the youth are, because they can come up with innovation. They have a chance to see that nothing is not working, and I think I can come up with something else. I've just had a couple of conversations here with people saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm a huge champion for entrepreneurship. So I believe that the more we have with youth coming up with solutions, because I think and it can be from a place of what the government has failed us, so let us stand up for ourselves and be able to create that change I want to see. Then through that way, we can actually learn also achieve universal health coverage. I could speak of many more, but I think those two are good for now. I'll have my other persons speak about it.
Thank you very much. I think a lot has been said about UHC. What I would add is that leadership and governance comes with the accountability to hold us as youth to the commitments of actually realizing UHC. When we talk about UHC, we are looking into issues of equity, where we are saying that anyone who is seeking health services is able to receive this services from where they are, whenever they need it. And then the issue of affordability comes in. We tend to imagine that UHC is free. It's not. The idea is just to enable us to access these services without suffering what we call financial catastrophe. What that means is that you do not have to sell your household items or livestock to access the services. So then leadership and governance comes in to ensure that these commitments made are actually achieved in terms of the finances that are dedicated to it. So what we call for is actually more investment in health through budgetary advocacy, pushing for social accountability, where now we engage the community, young people, what their rights to health, and the health-seeking area. So I think this is the area where youth can actually come in a lot of ways. As I mentioned earlier, we do not have a shortage of internet among the youth. We actually have been what we are calling a youth bulge in Africa, where over 70% of the population is actually below 35 years. So a lot can actually be done in terms of community outreach, championing for advocacy. I think UHC has had a good global momentum, and Kenya is actually doing well. Based on Global Health Security Index, Kenya was actually ranked third in 2021 for the efforts and steps that we are taking to achieve this. But guess what else we are number 3? Teenage pregnancies. So what are we saying? We're saying that there is a lot that the youth are being on the table to just make sure that access to these services are achieved, sexuality education. So we do not necessarily need to sit in a boardroom to offer leadership. We can do this through advocacy programs, which quite a number of us are already doing. Let me stop there. Allow my colleague to work.
Thank you. I think my colleagues have talked quite a lot about the youth and leadership and governance. But let me just add, if we look at health in general, leadership and governance is one of the health system, the health system building blocks. And the reason is why leadership and governance? If we can deal with leadership and governance issues in Africa and the world at large, I think 80% of the services we talk about as far as health is concerned are going to be achieved, including UHC and private health. So then the question is, where do the youths come in? So a number of speakers before I talked that youths are innovative. If you look at even again the health systems, a lot of it we are talking about innovation. And there is no way then we are going to achieve innovation without the youth being part and parcel or being the cornerstone as far as the youth is concerned. So maybe a challenge to the youth is even during COVID-19, for example, we know that the youths had, were not likely to suffer much as far as COVID-19 disease is concerned. But then look at the population that was suffering much, the older ones. But then how did the youth help? That's the question. And that was part of the activity or their role as far as the personal health sector is concerned at private healthcare. A lot of information were everywhere in the media. So one thing that the youth did very well was in terms of passing the right information through the number of media platforms that we have. So going forward, as far as leadership and governance is concerned, one, the youth must come out and with a lot of courage and say no issues as far as corruption is concerned, leaders with questionable conduct. Another thing is that these youths should come out and fight for this position. No one is going to give a position and receive a platter. You must come out and say, no, I must also be part and parcel of the table, or part and parcel of the bigger table in terms of leadership governance. And your voice ought to be heard. Remember, the older ones are looking at where the youth to speak against some of the needs that are happening in our community.
Thank you. I think we are having another. Okay. So, that being said and done, you see that we are talking about universal health coverage. The 3 pillars of universal health coverage: accessibility of health, availability of the same health, affordability of the same health. Yeah? Yes, let's have Laurene. She's joining the panel. Thank you. So, there's Opon is the HOD from Amref. Then you have Shadrack. Thank you. So, I was saying, we've seen that the 3 pillars of universal health coverage include the availability of health, accessibility of health, and then affordability of health. Now, in relation to the youth, which are the opportunities counting that, those are the 3 pillars of universal. If you want to realize universal health coverage, Daktari here has said that Kenya is ranked third in the steps that it has made in a bid to achieve universal health coverage. Now, the 3 pillars being in place, which are the objectives you see for the youth in the realization, in the journey, in the realization of universal health coverage. You can start.
Thank you. The 3 pillars of UHC and what is the role of the youth. Allow me to say that one challenge that everyone goes through as far as health is concerned, or as far as the realization of youth is concerned, is affordability. Health is expensive. There is no doubt about that. But then the youth and the adolescents, 10 to 24 years, are more exaggerated. One, because they don't have income. Okay? Leave alone just getting health services, getting the basic health services, including family planning, reproductive health. It's so expensive for the youth. So what is then the role of, let me talk about affordability. Number one is the fact the youths ought to be given the right information as far as health is concerned. Information is power. So if the youths are given the right information, one, what about reproductive health? Two, what about family planning? Three, what about the communicable diseases? And that information to be used well going forward for the youths, then affordability shall be dealt with. Number two, the youths ought to speak out that we, the youths, let's not only look at the old and the young being taken care of. The president talked about it here, that when he left university or when he finished university, that was the end of the help from the parents. So then what happens? It is you, the youth, to speak out and say, look, we can't afford this amount of money, or we can't afford some of these services. Can they then be taken care of in terms of the cost? And then we can go on and you will access them. It's the voice of the youth that then will help in terms of reduction of the prices in health centers as far as affordability concerned. Number two is employment. Currently, there's a lot of courses that are going on online. Capacity building among the youths in terms of the knowledge of some of these issues. Need to be empowered. And you don't be empowered by going to the university. Go online and check some of the courses that are on. For example, WHO runs a program for UHC free of charge. Go on and understand about UHC. Use that information and use the platform in terms of the social media to voice out the need for UHC and the need to protect the youth. Should the youth be protected, the old shall be protected.
Good afternoon. My name is Maras. I need to introduce myself earlier. Nursing student at Amref International University. Okay, according to what I think, in my own view, the point at which youths come in the universal health coverage is this point of availability and accessibility. We cannot be so accountable for the affordability of the health because when you look at a good percentage of the youths in Africa and the world at large don't have the ability to access their own funds to make sure they get to fund these health services. But they can really take part in the availability and the accessibility part. Look at the availability part in the sense that we have some youth programs out here that we as youths bring them up on our own to make sure that health gets to reach the community as large. For example, I will take an example of during the COVID-19 period, students of Amref International University took part in a mass vaccination to attain the herd immunity. This took part in Vera last December for like 2 days. They actually took the initiative to get into the community at large to make sure that they get to mobilize the community on the importance of taking these vaccines and the importance of being vaccinated at large. And they made sure in the middle of this, of having this sort of health camp, they had basic checkups done on the residents of Kibra. Now, this shows how much when the youths are committed to be available to the society, what they can do to the society. On the accessibility part, look at the population of youths in Africa. The youth in Africa are about 60%. And by Vision 2030, we should be at 42% of the world. That means a better part of the population are going to be youths and are youths at this point. It's upon us as youths that to take the initiative to make sure that in our own communities, people don't get these misconceptions that we have, and we make sure that we empower the society. Look at the population of people taking the family planning methods. I actually heard recently that the COIL family planning method brings about cancer. There are many doctors out here in the community, but it is our privilege, it is our obligation as youths to make sure that this right information gets to reach the community. So I really think we as youth should take the initiative to make sure that the society at large gets to access these services by letting them know the importance of these services and where they can get them and what it's going to prevent, because we can't keep giving back when we do not have the correct resources to make sure that our children are able to access these health services, the basic needs, basically. So it's our obligation as a group, as youth, to make sure that these health services get to reach the community. Thank you.
Well, I think that we tend to underestimate the opportunities that are actually available for the youth to engage. The reason I'm saying this is there are quite a number of areas. For example, today we are in the 7th day of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. You must know that. Something else that I mentioned earlier is that the rate at which teenage pregnancies are increasing in this country is also very high. What does this mean? It means that we have a comprehensive sexuality education. Who are better placed to push sexuality education? Who knows what information that the peers require? It's the youth. When you look at today is actually World AIDS Day. What we know is that between 20 to 30% of new HIV infections occur among the youth, especially people between 15 to 24 years old, depending on which region you want to examine. So what this means is that one, we need comprehensive sexual education, access to sexual reproductive health services and information. We are better placed to drive this kind of advocacy. So these are opportunities that are actually existing. So we also see that youth are also better placed to formulate youth-friendly policies. In Kenya, we actually do not lack we do not lack policies per se, but what we lack is is the dissemination or implementation of these policies. So as youth, we stand a better chance to advocate for policy priority. What is it that is going to cater for the betterment of youth life? There is youth health and sexual reproductive health rights that a lot of youth-focused programs are now championing. So what we are saying is that if we as youth cannot stand up to vocalize our concerns, then we are missing out. What I always say is that if you are not invited to the table where decisions that affect your well-being are being discussed, then bring yourself, fall in chair so that you can contribute. Talk about issues that actually affect you. Harmful practices, cultural harmful practices, who are mostly affected by these issues? It's the young people. So it's upon us to actually stand up against this and drive this advocacy. I get concerned a lot of times when I attend conferences where youth are being challenged to take up leadership positions. So at one time, let me say this, that at one time I was in some conference, it was in the banking sector. And you know, governance will not only affect health, governance is a problem basically all sectors in this country. So and that is why we are saying, for us to strengthen leadership and governance in health, we are looking for ways in which we can manage and strengthen health systems through joint actions from both non-health and health sectors and from both public and private stakeholders. So in this conference that I was in, it was from the banking sector, so youth were being challenged to take up leadership positions. So I asked myself, if you ask me, the youth to take up leadership position, what are we saying? Are we asking youth to stand up and come and grab this position? Because we won't let them. So what we need, what's needed is that we are mentored into these leadership positions. I think if you look at, for example, youth-led organizations or programs, sometimes when you look at even the job boards, job descriptions or requirements, someone would tell you that we're looking for someone below the age of 35 or below the age of 32, but this person needs to work for 10 years of experience, a master's degree. What are we saying? You're already cutting them out, because not all are privileged enough to get a master's at that age. 10 years of experience, you already cut them out. So we are not being truthful with ourselves in wanting to involve you. So what we are saying is, when the opportunities that arise for youth are actually in their advocacy, let us stand up against such. Let us preach gender equality, inclusivity. A lot of these are already encompassed in the Africa Union's Agenda 2063. We are talking about the Youth Decade Action, the Youth Decade Plan of Action. There are quite a number of commitments that the AU has made where youth can actually be involved in. So what we need is to create a self-awareness, preach advocacy, so that we can be heard. So if there is anything that we can take out of this, as I mentioned earlier, is that always bring a full chair with you, vocalize the issues that directly affect you. I think we are not going to be handed these opportunities. The only way to take them up is to speak up about it.
I like what my colleague has said in terms of advocacy. When we think of women, so one of the pillars is access. And I think we highly overestimate the ability of youth to access medical services. I'll give an example. I've had a case where, and I think many people may have heard about such stories, where reproductive health care, a young person goes to I mean, the prevalence of HIV is highest among the 15 to 25 age bracket. But then a young person goes to a clinic and is asking for family planning methods, or ways to protect themselves, and the healthcare practitioner is saying, but what do you want? You're not married, you have a family, you should not be looking for this. So out of shame, the young person goes away. Ultimately, they may end up getting infected, or they may try to figure out alternative ways to get protection. So I think it's time that we have such conversations. It's not just in sexual and reproductive healthcare space. I recently had another case around breast cancer. A young lady, around 22 years, thought she had cancer. So she goes to the hospital and asks to have the mammogram done. But the healthcare practitioner is saying, that's an old people disease, so there's no way you would be having breast cancer. I think it's just in your head. So she goes away, some time passes, she's really now she really actually is experiencing one symptom, goes back and then it's now in a later stage. Had it been caught again, she was given the opportunity to get screened, perhaps it wouldn't be as worse as it was at the time. See? So I think we need to advocate for ourselves. I think in the healthcare realm, even if we think about advocacy at the governance level, at the community level, you should be a good personal advocate as a young person, be in charge of your own health. Secondly, again, perhaps it goes back to advocacy, and perhaps even back to governance. Late last year, or actually the whole of last year, the UN General Assembly was putting together a council of, they wanted to hear COVID-19, to get sort of advice on what they should think about COVID-19 policies for the youth. It was across the world, so there was feedback across the world. Other continents, and so many people. Africa, we only had one team of 5 people go in to speak for Africa, and none of them was given, which is very sad. So we need to be at the table. We need to be part of people who are, as a youth, putting out our voices and saying what we are experiencing. Until the youth eventually get the leadership spaces, and now we're doing one person at a time getting there. Now a lot of those spaces are occupied by older people who may not really understand what the pain point. Not they know, but perhaps we play ignorant. We need to figure out how to amplify our voices for them to hear. So we need to figure out how do we be part of this table and conversation that are happening.
You just say that until the moment when the youth are in leadership position. And I have Modi saying that we need to have a positive methodical mentorship. So now the next thing we need to is, do you have ways in which we can nurture these leaders? Or do you have ways that we can contribute to nurturing leaders who can be able to contribute in the journey towards organization of universal coverage, be it information giving or being have any ways that we can nurture leaders?
Thank you. This is true story. Leadership is not given. Leadership is taken. So this is true story. Immediately finished my university. Young and active. I went into Kenyan politics and right as a member of parliament. I was not mentored. I was just annoyed and hungry. While at the university, I participated a lot in student leadership. At that time, it was leadership stroke activism. If you remember, a few years ago. So when I came out, I said, no, if I did it in the university, why not in the Kenyan politics? And here I was, got into Kenyan politics, right as a member of parliament. I actually resigned from my job that are just taught. The question is, are we ready to risk the risk? Or after you got your first job, you become very comfortable. You say, it's not my problem, it's other youth's problem. So then how then can you be part, or can you be mentored, or can you be part of a realization of the UHC? It's something that we, the youths, have, that majority of the population don't have, the social media. That's a tool that you can either misuse or use well. The social media. And no government currently across the world would love to be on the wrong side of the youth as far as social media is concerned. Even the Kenyan government, they've been forced at times to respond because of social media. Then why can't we start as youth talking about UHC in social media? Number two is the partners. I can tell you, one of them is Amref and Amref International University. We here in Amref International University, we teach primary health care as a common source. It's a common course across all the schools. And I'm speaking with authority because I teach the same unit myself. And as I teach primary health care, I don't only make these students have knowledge about primary health care and the elements of primary health care and what the primary health care stands for. No. I tell them to participate in the same elements too. None of them is equity. If you can't speak about equity, remember, ujana ni moshi. Few years will not be a youth. You also want someone to speak about it. At that time, you won't have that voice. Thirdly, these stakeholders of these organizations that I talk about, they are so ready to listen to the youth because that they know that is the future. It's upon us to go to them and talk to them and say, we want a space in this organization. Can we come together and talk about the international organizations? Currently, look at even what people write in terms of the proposals. Mostly are geared towards the youth. And the biggest thing currently is mental health. Do you know what COVID did to the youth? 8.7% of youth lost jobs, could not work, and therefore could not even access power. This is the time. These organizations are looking for you. And you can't go as a youth. You come as a group, as a youth group, you'll be hard more. Last that I want to talk about, on how the youth can come into this. Let's come together. Let's come together. Any youth, one youth that is being affected, should worry all of us. Let's come together, because when we are together, the numbers is power. Thank you.
So how can we contribute positively of the youth?
On how to contribute to the possibility of the youth. Number one is these organizations, as a program, these organizations. Come on, let's come together and write some of these proposals for capacity building. Like for example, agriculture, for example, it's a great thing that came up. Why can we use agriculture to bring in other groups that are up there or that are out there? Then part of it then they can be part, or they can be capacity building and come into some of these activities. Yeah. Number two, it's not just about capacity building. It's just about helping the community. And I'm talking about community help and community work. One way to do this, or one way to bring in the community as a youth, anytime you go to a community, be specific on what you want from that community. If you want to look at the youth, for example, if you go to this community, don't sideline the old ones. Bring them in. Why? When you listen to the old ones, when the youth will listen to the old ones, and the old ones listen to the youth, we be one. But then, as far as capacity building is concerned, that each one of us, or each one of these groups there, ought to look on how to tap in some of the resources that we have in the universities and in some of these organizations.
I think it's time we realize our potential as youths. Youths out here are not empowered, youths out here are not exposed. As much as a better population of the youths are exposed to such things, some of the youths are not empowered, some of the youths are not exposed to some of those things. I think it's time we as youths make sure we grow together as youths, make sure that we enable the less privileged youths to get into contact with some other services and some other leadership skills that we have. It's time that we impact the youth that are less privileged, the ones that are more of in less privileged areas in the country and the continent. It's time that we as youth take the initiative to make sure that we impact them with the leadership skills. It all starts with us. I don't think that someone who is all grown, someone who is all working on his own stuff or her own stuff will look back and say, I want to empower youths when youths themselves don't want to empower themselves. I think it's time that we hold each other's hands, we get to the point where we speak of ourselves as a group that we are empowered. We don't, when we mention the word empowerment, we mention only few youths. The youths who are able to get access to education, the youths who are able to get access to exposure to some certain things in this world. We want to talk as of youths as large. I think my colleague here has talked about social media. Most of the times we use social media and do some certain things that we could use, we could actually use social media to get things that can make sure that the UHC goals are being attained. We can make hashtags as youth, we can make, we can create events and make sure we circulate them on these social media platforms to ensure that our participation is felt by the world, our participation is felt by the community at large. So it's our personal initiative. I really believe in hands-on. I really believe in a thing that you yourself do. I really believe in a situation where it starts with you. You get to do it before you mentor the rest, and you make sure you move as a group. I think it's time we will be more of exposed to the current affairs than the rest of the population, and we are more of able to get new ideas about this advocacy, these ways in which we can access the community, ways in which we can make sure that healthcare systems get to reach to the levels where we want them to be. And I think it's time we stop using our minds on some other things that do not benefit us as a society at large, and make sure that we focus our minds on things that can help build the health systems. Because health is wealth at the end of the day. It's not something that when we start building today, it will end tomorrow. It's not. It's definitely going to last. It's definitely going to last our generations and generations to come. So it's time that we realize that it all depends on us. When we wait for the next generation to come and do it, they might not do it. They might depend on the next generation to do it. So I think it all starts with us, and I think we should be self-empowered. We should take initiatives. I am so proud of some NGOs, some governmental organizations that are youth-led. Someone gets up in the morning and thinks of this idea. I really think it's going to make perfect sense. I really think we should get to these marginalized communities and make sure we stop FGM and make sure we advocate for gender balance, we advocate for certain things that are going to help the society. That is a personal initiative that I youth took. Why don't we take it up as a challenge? Make sure that each and every year that passes, make sure you do something in the health system. Make sure you impact someone health-wise. I really think we can do that. Thank you.
So this is the question. I think I got lost in thoughts with my colleague, my panelists as well.
The question was, if you have any insight on how we can be able to nurture and mentor and bring up new leaders in health.
Thank you for that. So the reason I asked that is because I think I have could be parallel point of view of that. I do not think we have shortage of leaders in this country, especially when it comes to youth. I mentioned earlier that Africa alone, we have what is called the youth badge. And we are saying that about 70% of that population is below 35 years. Now, you will not be surprised when I say that 40% of those do not have meaningful employment. When we even talk about health workers themselves, what our problem has been is actually the healthcare financing so that we can coach, mentor, and absorb youthful leaders that are already been trained. Today, you will be surprised to know that we have more than 5,000 doctors who are employed. Every year, all medical training institutions graduate about 1,000 doctors. We can't start talking about nurses because that would be twofold. So the challenge is actually the financing so that we can train specialists. What we learn would be specialties and then the absorption. I think one of the presenters earlier mentioned that Africa is a home to, that was 25% of global viral disease, but only 3% of healthcare workers, and then there was something on less than 1% of the expenditure. So if we are having less than 1% of global healthcare expenditure, you can already see why we host a quarter of global disease pandemic. But in terms of the total number of population in Africa, was it this year that the global population crossed 8 billion, but we only have about 10% of that population? That would be around 800 million people. So we are not that many. What we lack is the financing to cater for that. So I don't think that we lack leaders. Youth out there, we are trained. Absorption is what's missing, and coaching youth, mentoring them in leadership position. I think that is what we are missing.
That's an interesting question because that's exactly what I do in my day-to-day, finding opportunities for capacity building for youth leaders who are part of the health network, which is our students and alumni, but also anybody else who's keen to develop, to be part of the healthcare conversation on the continent. So for me, I always come out there and try to find what are the opportunities that I can bring to these young individuals. And it's interesting, I've been saying I'm doing the controversial position. I used to think that there are not that many opportunities until I got into this role. And now that I'm not there, I realize there's so many opportunities. People just don't know about them, and people are not taking them on. And it could be that perhaps because they're not part of the right conversations, the right groups. So I think the first thing I'd urge every person here to be impacted into the healthcare communities. Whether it's right culture, who's been amazing, and that's why you see we're partnering with them, because we thought, oh, if there's an opportunity for the youth to learn, we need to also be there and be availed the opportunity. Whether it's you're joining Now for Health, which I run, and you want to be a part of that network, we do things like we have monthly conversations where we invite people all around. Just come and share what you're working on. Come and share opportunities that people should hear about. And you'll be surprised that sometimes you have this meeting that you have less than 50 people showing up. Could be that they don't know about it, could be that they found about it but they did not care. I feel like finally we have people that need to have been trained, but are you, be a go-getter, be out there and find out what is available to you. Then the second thing I'd say again, mentoring. I encounter a lot of older people that say I want to mentor younger people, but I don't know, like they're not either willing to learn and just see them here. Because I think sometimes we as the youth think we know it all, like and I know perhaps the older generation may have feel that in some capacities, but there's also a wisdom. When you sit down with, we just came from a conference that we were running in Ghana, and our keynote speaker was an older professor, a medical doctor, who'd been there when he saw how Ghana initially had really good medical systems that is deteriorated, and now it's really terrible. And a lot of the young people have only been part of the terrible thing, so they don't know what the capacity of the Ghana system can be. And so just sitting with him and him sharing all this, you realize that this older people that sometimes look down upon have a lot of wisdom to share. That would be great to just get plugged in and hear about. Lastly, I'd say, as my friend said, social media, that's where LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all these places where people advertise all these things that you can be a part of. So be out there. That's all right.
Thank you very much. We're coming to the end of this session. So I would like to invite maybe them two questions. To of them. Yes, it's okay. We have the three. Is that possible? So that we have 2 minutes.
As a question.
Hello, my name is Mary, and I could just see something before asking a question. Sometimes I feel like our Ministry of Health is kind of overrated, because sometimes I feel like some things like NGOs, those are non-governmental organizations, and we really have like the government itself. Like I feel like what is the Ministry of Health currently doing? Like when you say we have, it's all about Youth Voices Summit. We are youths and we have voices. Like when we talk, who is going to listen? And when they listen, what are they going to do? Like for instance, you said like we have a role in advocacy. Like currently, a well-known, I guess most of us are familiar with Team Respect, and they are youth. It's a youth-led organization, NGO, and what they do, it is not brought in the limelight. Like I mean, they are youth, they do it, but it's not recognized like by the government. You see, so I feel like the youth don't have a place in the government, like in the Ministry of Health. And do we really have a space in the Ministry of Health? Yes, that is my question. Thank you.
Hello, thank you everyone, and thank you all panelists for the wonderful points of view. Amazing. Thank you for that. My name is Damien, and I have a couple points. First of all, is to kind of ask a question to everyone here. At what level do you feel you are being engaged as a young person? At what level do you feel you are being engaged as a young person at all the levels that we are having? And I'm speaking from the perspective of we cannot really achieve universal health coverage without the finance aspect. You know, there is the last aspect of finance that we might not speak about, but it's always about you being able to achieve or to access healthcare without finance being an issue. And we all agree that in our system, in our country, healthcare is so damn expensive. No, it's very expensive, and unless you get into that system, you always think it's an illusion, you know? And my question is, with all the projects that you are involved in, everyone here, at what level of engagement do you feel you're being engaged? First of all, are you paying young people for what they do? Are you paying them? Or are you just asking them to volunteer for their time, to volunteer their expertise, and don't pay them? So how are we going to pay for the NHIF? How are we going to survive? How are we going to make sure we don't eat healthy or have nutritious food if what we are doing for the day-to-day living with like big NGOs, big organizations, it's just that's different. We're surviving for 500, 1,000 people. And would you be given that money? If you were in my position, would you take that for a whole kind of time? So what level are you really engaging in that point? Am I just there to fulfill a role? To just present your topic as though, or your project as though it's supporting youth and having that kind of influence for youth? That's my question. And first of all, we need to realize, or we need to know what level of engagement we are being engaged as young people, and what level of engagement are people asking us to be engaged in. And two, that comes down to really, what do we mean by meaningful youth engagement? What do we mean by that? What are the opportunities that we are presenting youth with for them to be able to participate meaningfully? You guys are involved in research. You guys are involved in workshops. You guys are involved in like big stuff, big amazing stuff. Okay. Yeah, big amazing stuff. But really, how meaningfully are you involving the young folks? You know, are you asking them to come in and just say, "Hi, this is an amazing project," and you know, what do you think about it? Would you sign up for this kind of service? And so they take a vote because that's the only thing they can do, you know? That's for them to be able to get that 1,000 vote, they have to sign that form. And for them to sign that form, they have to agree with you know? And then there is a personal request to the Amref team in the room. It's so easy for us to point fingers. It's so easy for us to say, you're not doing A, you're not doing B, you're not doing C, but really, can we go back to the drawing board and say, now, for this group of young folks who are here, for the Amref courses that we are offering, you know, we can subsidize that for you to be able to get the capacity that you need. You know, we can, instead of you paying 10,000 or 15,000 or that kind of stuff, because you honestly don't have the money, and the unemployment rates are just alarming, it's crazy. Let's give you a package for 10,000 instead of 15. That way, in one way or the other, you're improving access for these young people to be able to achieve universal health coverage, to be meaningfully involved in projects, and to be able to support other young people down there. And then, my second last, what can we do as individuals? Like, what do we have to do as persons? You know, especially when it comes to mentorship. We have come this far. You have come that far. You knew there's this event here. What did you do? Did you share this opportunity with someone else? From our own this individual basis, what did you do? Or what do you do to make sure there's someone else who is coming after you? You're in this position, you're not gonna be there forever. You're working for the organization, but you're not gonna be there forever. So who are you ensuring that whatever you're doing, they know how you're doing it, and they're learning from you. You as a person, first of all, before you come to the organizational point of view. And so, how is that information or that expertise trickling down to the other young person? For instance, there is Faith here, who I have known from before. And it's easier for me to always just give her a call and let her know this A, B, and C happening. If you're interested, please do sign up. But you as a person, before you start pointing out those fingers, you as a person, what is your role? Just like any other place, for instance, GBV, sexual reproductive health and rights. What are you doing, you as a person? And lastly, can I please ask that we be kind to ourselves? Be kind to ourselves.
be more kind and more appreciative of the fact that we have come this far, and that took us time, and that took us a lot of energy to be where we are. Appreciate where we are, support each other, and more importantly, support our own mental well-being. All what we're doing here, every single thing that we're doing here will not be achievable if we let the mental well-being of our aspect slide in any single way. Thank you.
Okay, because we're really pressed for time, so I'll request that this be the last question. And then I think there are some statements he has made that aren't really questions, so maybe you just speak and answer the question so that we head for lunch to catch up on time. I'm sorry, the time is so bad.
Thank you, President. You did a great job, and we are feeling united and empowered. And just know that we really appreciate you. So mine is actually a contribution. My name is Frederick from Kenyatta University. I'm very passionate about quality. I'm in the medical field, I think it makes sense. And I'm just concerned that as we are getting out of this place, we are getting to be fired up and going to pursue these leadership roles and advocacy and everything. And wherever we go, I will just urge each and every one of the young people who are here that whichever that you are given, kindly give quality. Young people, if we are not given opportunities, few of us get these opportunities. If you get an opportunity and you're a young person, everybody is looking at you and seeing you, and you'll be an example to the rest of the older generations of people who are out there. They'll say, look at that young person, we gave this opportunity, what are they doing? What did they do with the job that we gave them? And young people, we have to look ourselves in the mirror, because we have this idea, or like a quote, like, I do everything just to get rich. So if you give an opportunity, you had ambitions, you are speaking great minds are here speaking great things. But you go out there and given that opportunity, you forget all the things that you wanted to do for this country or for the common man, and then you just want to look at yourself and make it. So I advocate for this quality young people. Quality.
Okay, the last one here.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kate, and I think I had just a short question, like back to the basics. I wanted to ask our panelists, what is leadership and what is governance according to you? Because I feel like that will steer us either way to UHC and even achieving other SDGs in general. And according to LA, what leadership model do you use? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll return it to the moderator and request that our panelists can just pick up the questions and answer them as quickly as possible.
I don't know whether I can give you one question. The last one I think you can answer. Yes, I can be 10 very big.
Very quickly. Okay. And I'll just combine the two questions. I think I'll take for the execution as much as I can. Leadership begins where you are. And it's something that, so I had this one someone say, nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. It's very easy to say we're not getting recognition from the government. It would be nice to have recognition from the government. But let's proceed even if they're not giving us recognition we want. Yeah? Start with whatever you do. I think for us at AID, we say start wherever you are. Even when we for leaders, it's not just the leaders at all. It's great that we have a senator now. Wonderful. Actually, two like an short grade. But then the rest are also leaders in their own capacity, wherever you are. If you see a problem here, you fix it. When it comes to there's a problem, people not being informed, they say, let's organize a conference. That's a leader right there indeed. So start wherever you are, do it. If recognition comes along the way, wonderful. If not, let's proceed, because the governments have failed us so long, we cannot sit and wait for them to come and save us anymore. We have to start to ourselves. And we complain that things are high, sort of the medical prices are high and everything. They are, that's a reality, but unless innovation comes in and fixes it, you see a problem, you fix it, and you come up with a cheaper solution. We'll never have a cheaper solution. I've had the privilege of being part of 3 country medical systems. So I have worked here, I have worked in the US, I've worked in Korea. And in all of them, even in the US, terrible medical system, but now we see people coming in and saying, oh, let's have cheaper medication because insurance companies are hiking the prices. Korea, a small person just came in and said, oh, I'm going to start a small clinic. And that's, the whole revolution now, medical system in Korea is very cheap because of one person. So let's not look for recognition, let's start where we are. And that's sort of the leadership that AAB goes for. Yeah. I'll be happy to chat a bit more later.
So I think I'm going to speak to whether Amoit has space for the youth. What I'm certain about is that the government do not work with individuals. Government work with groups of people, organizations. So what has happened, the government creates the environment for you, for the youth. We have the youth-friendly policies that the government will come up with, the freedom to express. We have what is called the Africa Youth Charter, which I think, for example, Kenya ratified as well. So what this has is that youth are able to associate or advocate without any form of discrimination. So the government works through youth-led organizations and groups. So that is where we get a platform to do. So we cannot say that the government will come and do this, so they're not doing that and that. So they give us the platform in which we work. And then, as I said earlier, we do not have shortages of policies. What we learn is the dissemination and implementation of this. That is where we come in. So I also want to say that what Ami was done, I think one of my colleagues earlier mentioned that we recently launched a strategy. And one of the pillars of that strategy is our commitment to train fit for purpose healthcare workers. To realize that we are actually offering 40% off the tuition fees for 2 critical programs that help in strengthening health systems. That is health systems management, bachelor's, and community health practice. So those are some of the ways that we are giving back to the community, especially for pre-service or even the in-service, because we have different modes that would accommodate either of those categories. So just allow me to speak to leadership and governance. I'm really passionate about that area. I have a lot of interest in health systems. So what the WHO envisioned with the leadership and governance was the existence of strategic policy frameworks and effective oversight or stewardship. So that is what was envisioned. And when we talk about that, we want to look at it in terms of the management of health systems and strengthening of health systems. And this is encompassing PPPs, this is public-private partnership, joint actions, and collaboration building. So what has been missing is actually the accountability. Remember when we talked about the youths, we were saying that the government was committing to ensure that everyone who wants to access healthcare are able to do so from wherever they want at a cost that will not drive them in financial hardship. But what is missing is the accountability to those commitments to make sure that that's actually happening, to ensure continuity of care or quality the same. You do not want to be able to access the service from wherever you need it from or wherever you need it, but then the health outcome is not different when you actually do. So that is where the leadership and governance come from. I hope I was able to address some of this.
I think the question I will answer is the question of whether or not these young people that participate in this health services provided surveyed or not. I will use a personal experience. I happen to have worked with one or two NGOs to make sure that we get to give these services to the community. But now, no youth at this age, with the current economy, will want to leave whatever will give them an income and get to do something that they're not so sure if they're going to get anything out of it. Everyone wants to get a profit out of something at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the youth need money to, or rather tokens to help them move on with their daily lives. But now, when you look at this point, some NGOs encourage you to get in as volunteers. Now, that is an avenue you're creating for yourself. That is a way in which you can get to higher avenues in life later on. But now, at this point, if they don't have the capacity to pay you, why don't you just do it for the sake of humanity? Why don't you just do it for the sake of the rest of the people? Why don't we stop thinking of ourselves once? Yes, we do think of ourselves on our daily lives, and it's true, it's not something bad. It's not something that we should be blamed for. Of course, we have to take good care of ourselves too. But why don't we take it as a personal initiative too? Whether or not we're paid, why don't we just do these services? Why don't we deliver these services to the communities? Why don't we make sure that the community at large is okay before we ourselves are okay? I really think that is waiting for that question. Thank you.
Thank you. I think a number of questions have been answered. But my good friend from my former university, taking medicine, quite talked about quality. As we think of quality as young people, and I think our question was, what is the difference between the two, leadership and governance, so that it can take us going forward. Leadership is an action of leading people, while governance are the structures that then help us to have a better environment as far as leading people is concerned, and including the rule of law, including the accountability that Dr. Opon talked about, inclusiveness, equity, and as Amref International University, as we say, we are primary healthcare. We have so much of primary healthcare as a health science university. That is one thing that AMU has done is that a number of students from far areas, very hard areas to reach, are part of us in this university. And what we've been doing is that some of the counties, and as I say, I think Dr. Opon talked about it, I talked about it earlier, is that even universities, even organizations, even the counties, even the national government does not work as an individual. If you go as an individual, you are in the system, you come as a group. We have a group of students here in this university, as far as Maryland is approved, as far as Turkana, as far as Kajiado, who are here on scholarship that is being done one by AMU, these counties. These are far-reach areas that you and I maybe will never be there. That is part of equity, and that is part of what AMU is doing. That then we can realize universal health coverage. And as AMU and Amref Health Africa, that is our position. And I'm sure you will see our GCO, group CEO, Dr. Njenga, so much passionate as far as universal health coverage is concerned in private healthcare. And what is our role? We must have these people that cannot believe to be part of us. If we engage a number of these people that are coming from these areas, then we are sure that we are going to realize UHC. And lastly, as youth people, as young people, one, honesty. Are we honest? Two, are we brave enough to talk about some of these things? Number three, are we transparent enough to talk about these things? Number four, are we able to risk? Number five, let's learn to say no. It is a no. And yes,